Hey guys, welcome to day 22 of my 2016 Vlogmas. As you probably guessed from the title, this video is on strange Christmas myths and traditions from around the world. First of all, I'd like to start by apologising in advance for any mispronounced words in this video. I do not want to offend, I'm just really not very good at pronouncing things. So I hope you can forgive me for that. This video is not meant to offend anyone, it is just a list of Christmas myths and traditions that I found that are strange to me, personally. So this is going to be a bit of a long one. There'll be some visuals and pictures, but you might want to just listen while you do some chores or you're travelling or whatever. Either way, let's get started. La Befana is part of Italian folklore, told around the time of Epiphany. She is a good witch that flies around on her broom on the night before the Feast of Epiphany, much like Santa Claus on Christmas Eve. In some Christian legends, it's said that she had been visited by 3 magi or wise men on their way to visit the baby Jesus. It's said that they asked her for directions, but she wasn't sure how to find the newborn infant. However, being a good housekeeper, she invited them to spend the night in her tidy little home. When the magi left the next morning, they invited Befana to join them on their quest. She declined, saying she had too much housework to do, but later she changed her mind. She tried to find the wise men and the newborn baby, but was unable to, so now she flies around on her broom delivering gifts to children. Perhaps she is still searching for the baby Jesus. Now, even though I'm pagan myself, I never thought I'd hear a good witch tale linking Christianity to paganism, especially a Catholic one. Now, don't take that the wrong way, I mean no offence, and I know in these modern times we should all be accepting of others' beliefs, and I like to think I am, at least most of the time. I simply mean that I'm surprised to read about an old tale that links two opposing religions so positively, and I have to say, I really love this one. This Icelandic tale also has its roots in paganism, but this tale is definitely not a happy one. Gryla is a giant troll with hooves for feet and has 13 tails. The lady troll is in a perpetual bad mood due to her insatiable hunger for children. Each Christmas, Gryla comes down from her mountain residence to hunt for bad children. She places them in a sack and drags them back to her cave, where she boils them alive for her favourite stew. According to folklore, Gryla has been married 3 times. Her third husband, Lepaludi, is said to be living with her in their cave in the Dimmuborgir lava fields, with the big black Yule Cat and their sons. He isn't really evil, just lazy. The Gryla legend has appeared in many stories, poems, songs, and plays in Iceland, and sometimes she dies at the end of the story. The Yule lads are the 13 sons of Gryla and are each known for a particular habit or characteristic, much like the 7 dwarfs. Most of them are depicted as mischievous pranksters and petty criminals. Icelandic children are visited each night on the 13 days leading up to Christmas. This is where my pronunciation will probably be at its worst in this whole video, so I'll be putting the spellings of each of their names on the screen so you can see what I'm attempting to say. The 13 sons in the order they visit are as follows. Stekkjastor or sheepcoat clod, a peg-legged sheep fancier. His fancying is impaired by his peg legs. Gilgagor or gully gawk hides out in ditches or gullies and waits for an opportune moment to run into the cowshed and lick the foam off of the milk in the milking buckets. Stuffer or stubby. His name denotes his stature, as he is unusually short. If your pie pan is missing, you can bet Stubby has stolen it to eat whatever pie crust was left behind. Orusleikir or spoon licker. Licker and thief of spoons. Pottersleikir or pot licker. Petty thief of leftovers. Askasleikir or bowl licker. This one hides under your bed and waits for you to absent-mindedly put your bowl down so he can steal it and, as the name suggests, lick it. Hurdaskalir or door slammer. Oh, did you just fall asleep? Not for long. This guy plans on slamming your doors all night. Have fun! Skiergamur or skiergobbler. There will be no skyr, which if you're wondering is a type of yogurt, left in your house on the night the skiergobbler visits. Bjorknekrijkje or sausage swiper. He's gonna steal your sausage. I hope it's well hidden. Gluggegeir or window peeper. As you can guess, he peeps through windows. Maybe he's watching you right now, but let's hope not. Personally, I find this one is the creepiest of all, because I already have anxieties about people watching me, as it is. Peffer or doorway sniffer uses his incredibly large nose to sniff through doors as a leaf bread locator. Leaf bread is a traditional Icelandic bread. Ketkroker or meat hook. This fellow always brings a hook along with him so he can steal meat. Kurtisnikje or candle stealer. He follows children around so he can steal their candles, leaving them in the dark. Creepy. Jólakötturinn or Yule Cat is the pet of Gryla and the Yule lads. The Yule Cat's prey consists of both children and adults. Unlike others, this cat doesn't really care about your misdeeds during the year. The only insurance against being torn apart and eaten by this giant feline is receiving an article of clothing for Christmas. Shop wisely. Belsnickel is a masked gift bringer and is considered to be far less cheery than his more peaceful counterpart, the Christkind. He was a popular Christmas character developed around the Middle Ages in European countries. Germany was known to have both happy and grim gift bringers, and Belsnickel was definitely a grim one. He was not only feared, but also got children to behave nicely through the year so that they could receive gifts during Christmas, and he is the first Christmas character in the history of Christmas characters who clearly distinguished between good children and bad children. He would mainly leave switches, which is a flexible wooden rod used as a whip, for children who were bad through the year, and would also leave small toys, socks, mittens, candies, or fruits for the well-behaved children. On Christmas Eve, just before everyone would go to bed, he would announce his arrival by knocking on windows and doors. Unlike Santa Claus, the children actually got to see Belsnickel. With a black bag in one hand and a mask covering his face, he was considered more of a Robin Hood type character during Christmas, and had an eerie anti-hero quality to him. It's said that children would either love him or absolutely fear him. There are scarier versions of Belsnickel. Legend has it that he used to drag naughty children into the forest and make them pay for their mischievous behaviour through the year. Other stories suggest that he used to kidnap naughty children from their beds and never return them to their parents. However, Belsnickel would often give them a chance to redeem themselves if they deserved it. They were either made to dance, do tricks, sing, or recite poems, depending on what Belsnickel wanted to hear. The story of Belsnickel is enough to inculcate fear in children. No wonder, then, that he later disappeared into obscurity after the introduction of merrier Christmas characters into the picture. Nowadays, the story of Belsnickel is recited in parts of Germany to wreak some Christmas havoc for good humour and to scare naughty children. The legend of Frau Perchta is an ancient one in Eastern Europe. Her story was popularised by Jacob Grimm. He called her Frau Perchta, the female counterpart to Berchtold, leader of the Wild Hunt. The hunt was comprised of elves, fairies and demons running around doing evil things. Seeing the hunt in passing was thought to be an omen indicating great misfortune. Physical descriptions of Frau Perchta vary. Some describe her as a Krampus-like beast, while others describe her as a tall white-robed woman. Sometimes she is presented as having two faces, which makes sense. The good children of Eastern Europe loved Frau Perchta, while naughty children were terrified of her. And for very good reason. On the 12th night of Christmas, the Feast of Epiphany, she would creep into homes and leave a piece of silver in the shoes of children and servants who were good that year. But if you'd been naughty, you were in for a heck of a lot more than just a stocking full of coal. Instead, she would split open their bellies, remove their organs, and replace them with pebbles and straw. Sometimes Perchta is portrayed with one extra large foot. This is commonly taken to mean that she is a shapeshifter and can take on any form she likes. As for what she does with those entrails she retakes every Christmas, well, you can probably imagine, and you probably don't want to think about it that long. Krampus has been trending lately, so you've probably heard of this one already. He's a half-man, half-demon beast who beats people into being nice instead of naughty. He has long horns, dark hair, fangs, and a chain and bells that he lashes about, along with a bundle of birch sticks to whip naughty children with. He then hauls the naughty children down to his lair, which in some versions is the underworld. He shares characteristics with other demonic creatures in Greek mythology like satyrs and fauns, but his name is derived from the German word Krampen, meaning claw, and is said to be the son of Hel in Norse mythology. The legend is part of a centuries-old tradition in Germany, where Christmas celebrations begin in early December. Krampus was created as a counterpart to kindly St. Nicholas, who rewarded children with sweets. According to folklore, Krampus shows up in towns the night before December 6th, known as Krampusnacht, or Krampus Night. It also happens to be Nikolaustag, or St. Nicholas Day, when German children look outside their door to see if the shoe or boot they'd left out the night before contains either presents, if they've been good, or a rod, if they've been bad. These days, in Austria, Germany, Hungary, Slovenia, and the Czech Republic, the day involves drunken men dressed as devils who take over the streets for a Krampuslauf, when people are chased through the streets by the devils. In the United States, people are buying into the trend with Krampus parties, and Austria is attempting to commercialize the harsh persona of Krampus by selling chocolates, figurines, and collectible horns. So there are already complaints about the commercialization of this sinister character. Christchild or Christkind is a traditional gift bringer in many countries around the world, and they have different names for him depending on the country, all roughly translating to Little Jesus, Godchild, Jesus Child, or Jesus Boy. This legend was adopted in Catholic areas in the 19th century, while it began to be gradually replaced by a more or less secularized version of St. Nicholas in Protestant regions. He is usually depicted with blonde hair and angelic wings, and is sometimes interpreted as an angel bringing presents as opposed to the baby Jesus. Children never see him in person, and parents tell them that he will not come and bring presents if they are curious and try to spot him. The family opens their presents in their living room next to their Christmas tree, once the parents say that they think Christkind has left. In some traditions, the departure is announced by the ringing of a small bell, which the parents pretend to have heard or is secretly done by one of the adults in the family. Since the 1990s, the Christkind is facing increasing competition with Weihnachtsmann in the American version of Santa Claus, because of him growing as an advertising figure. Christkind and Belsnickel are also found among communities of vulgar German descent in Argentina. A well-known figure is the Christkind and the Christkindlesmarkt in Nuremberg, which is represented by a young woman chosen every year for this task. Christkindl are diminutive versions of Christkind, and are part of the city of Steyr in Austria, named after the allegedly miraculous wax statue of Christkind in the town church. This one is really hard to pronounce for me, and I did look it up, so I'm going to try as best I can. Knecht Ruprecht roughly translates to farmhand Rupert or servant Rupert. The story of Knecht Ruprecht stretches back to the Middle Ages, when parents employed fear as a way of instilling piety and good behaviour into their children. Although tales of him stretch back earlier, he is first mentioned in written sources in the 17th century as a character in the Nuremberg Christmas procession. Knecht Ruprecht often appears today as a companion and helper to St. Nicholas, but he was originally an intimidating, frightening figure meant to scare children into good behaviour. He would arrive at the homes of children on St. Nicholas Day, December 6th, and ask parents about their children's activities. Depending on their response, he would give switches for use on the bad children and treats for the good children. He has either a brown or black robe or fur, and has always got a long beard. He usually carries a bag of ashes, a long staff, and a basket containing switches and bags of treats, often chocolates, gingerbreads, peanuts, and mandarin oranges. He often rides a white horse in the company of St. Nicholas, and according to German tradition, he appears in homes on December 6th, and in some areas gives coal to bad children, while St. Nicholas gives sweets and little gifts to good children. He is also associated with another figure in German folklore, Black Peter. In any case, visitors to German Christmas markets may find themselves confronted with this dark, impish figure in the company of a splendidly robed St. Nicholas. So be good, or prepare to receive a switch in return. Zwarte Piet, or Black Peter, is another companion of St. Nicholas in Dutch folklore. He first appeared in his current form in an 1850 book by Jan Schenkman, and is commonly depicted as a blackamoor. Traditionally, Zwarte Piet is said to be black because he is a Moor from Spain. Those portraying him typically put on blackface makeup and colourful Renaissance attire, in addition to curly wigs, red lipstick and earrings. In recent years, the character has become the subject of controversy, especially in the Netherlands. According to a long-standing theory, Zwarte Piet and his equivalents in Germanic Europe originally represented such an enslaved devil, forced to assist his captor. This chained and fire-scorched devil may have re-emerged as a black human in the 19th century Netherlands, in the likeness of a Moor and as a servant of St. Nicholas. A devil as a helper of the saint obviously isn't uncommon, as that's exactly what Krampus is in Austria, and many other characters. According to another popular explanation that came to prominence in the later decades of the 20th century, he is a Spanish or Italian chimney sweep, whose blackness is due to a permanent layer of soot on his body, acquired during his many trips through chimneys. Whether that's just an attempt to justify the blackface to those who might be offended by it, I have no idea, but either way, he's still a part of tradition. So this one is going to be a bit of a long one because it's a bit complicated. Olentzero is a Basque character, but didn't start out being a Santa Claus figure. Some of today's traditions were derived from Christian influence, but others are products of older religions. The pre-Christian era celebrated the end and beginning of the year, rather than a religious-based celebration. But when the Christians moved the celebration of the birth of Christ to December, other pre-Christian traditions were merged with the Christian Christmas. In Euskara, they have several ways of saying Christmas, such as Gabonak and Nativitate, but the most common term is Ugiberia, or New Day in Basque. Today, Olentzero is a mythic winter figure, but he takes his name from an older custom. The word Olentzero is a combination of two words, Olesen and Aroa, which gives us an indication of his significance. Aroa means time or season, but Olesen is an old Basque word that is preserved only in old folk songs. It seems to mean to call or ask, and in many other songs it's also associated with collecting presents. The word transformed from Olesen Aroal to Oletzen Aroa to Olotsan Aro to Olentzen Aroa and finally to Olentzero. For earlier Basques it was the season of asking from house to house. This custom is still maintained in some Basque villages as the youth go from house to house, dancing and singing, collecting food or money to prepare a special meal. The first written account of him is from Lope de Isasi, back in the 16th century. In his account, the character is called Olentzero, and it tells of a time thousands of years ago when there was a tribe in Jetelak, which are giants in Basque mythology. And Olentzero was one of them. He lived in the forests of the Pyrenees in Nafarroa, in the area that is now the village of Lasaka. One day the people of this tribe discovered a glowing cloud in the sky. They feared that this celestial phenomenon was the divine sign of the birth of Jesus. None of them could look at this bright cloud except for a very old, nearly blind man. They held him up to take a look, and he turned pale, confirming their wildest fear, saying, "Yes, this is a sign. Jesus will be born soon." They feared that vast changes would come with the arrival of Jesus, and the demise of their way of life. After foreseeing this terrible news, the man only saw a solution in terminating his life, so he asked his giant friends to throw him off the highest cliff. They complied, but on the way back down the mountain, the group of giants tripped head over heels and fell to their death. All except one. The only survivor, Olentzero, hiked to the villages in the valley, and with his sickle brutally cut the throat of those people who ate too much on the day before the arrival of Christ, i.e. the 24th of December. He wasn't the fasting type. He was a thick glutton who could eat huge quantities of meat, which he washed down with strong liquor. No surprise that he was frequently drunk and irritable, and sometimes depicted with a bottle nearby. Since then, of course, the story has been adapted for young children, and they wanted to shift the pagan custom related to the winter solstice to be associated with Christmas traditions. The new Christian version of the tale is of Olentzero as a human, a humble man with a heart filled with love. As a newborn, he was left alone in the woods, where a fairy with long blonde hair found him, adopted him, named him, and raised him. He turned into a strong man and worked as a charcoal maker. He was hard-working and gifted with his hands. He carved wooden animals, toys, and dolls. When he had a big charcoal bag full of toys, he would hike to the village in the valley and hand out the figures to the children, because he liked to see them happy. He would then play with them all afternoon. The children loved him, and he came back whenever he finished another bag of toys. One day, as he came down to the village, he saw a house in flames, so he dashed towards the house and found crying children behind the closed windows. Without hesitation, he ran into the house and freed them by lowering them from an upstairs window. With everyone safe, he went downstairs, but the house collapsed under the fire, burying him. The people from the village gathered outside the burning ruins, and they saw a white flash suddenly leave the flames and head towards the sky. The fairy that found him in the woods had come to be with him in that moment and said, "Olentzero, you have a good heart. You even gave your life for others. You should not die. You shall live forever, making toys for the children in this village and in the whole Basque country." A very different story to the original, similar to the comparison of Disney films to their original stories. His image changes from place to place, but he is characteristically dressed in the traditional baseri, or peasant farmer's garb, of dark pants tucked into socks below the knees, arbakak, or leather rope-tied shoes, a dark overshirt, sometimes with a coat of natural wool, a black beret, staff, and smoking pipe. He is paraded through streets accompanied by choral groups, comprised mostly of youthful singers dressed in similar costume and bundled up for protection from the chilling winter winds. So now we travel to Russia. Ded Moroz, or Father Frost, is the Slavic version of Santa Claus, who became the symbol of Russian winter, New Year's and presents long ago. He is usually accompanied by his grandfather Snezhrochka, riding with an evergreen tree in a traditional Russian troika, which is a sleigh drawn by 3 horses abreast. Snezhrochka is a unique attribute of Ded Moroz. None of his foreign colleagues have such a cute companion. The original Russian gift giver was Saint Nicholas, the country's patron saint, whose feast day is celebrated on the 6th of December. And the image of Saint Nicholas originates from the image of another hero, the ancient Morozko. In Russian folklore, Morozko is a powerful hero and smith who chains water with his iron frosts. Morozko was not hostile to people, he helped them with awesome presents. In fairy tales, Morozko is at times kind and at times evil. To be precise, he is kind towards the hard-working and the good-hearted, but extremely severe with the mean and the lazy. And it's not about justice only, it's more about 2 personalities living in one magical person. Ded Moroz has a number of distinguishing features that help tell him apart from his foreign colleagues. His fur coat is ankle-length and is embroidered with silvery stars and crosses. His hat should be red and embroidered with pearls. He wears mittens and a wide white belt. His footwear is luxurious, high boots with silver ornamentation, but on an exceptionally cold day he can opt for Valenki. And finally, he never appears without his pike staff. Made either of silver or crystal, it possesses a twisted gripe. It helps the not-so-young Ded Moroz make his way through the deep, dark forest during long winter nights. Despite the respectful age and the benevolent character, children often tease Ded Moroz, calling him Ded Moroz the Red-Nose. I wonder what happened to respecting your elders. Pere Fouettard, or Whipping Father, is a character who accompanies St. Nicholas in his rounds during St. Nicholas' Day, dispensing lumps of coal and or floggings to the naughty children, while St. Nick gives gifts to the well-behaved. He is known mainly in the far north and eastern regions of France and in the south of Belgium, although similar characters exist all over Europe. This Whipping Father was said to bring a whip with him to spank all of the naughty kids who misbehaved. The most popular origin story of Le Pere Fouettard was first told in the year 1150. An innkeeper, or in some versions a butcher, captures 3 boys who appear to be wealthy and on their way to enroll in a religious boarding school. Along with his wife, he kills the children in order to rob them. One gruesome version tells that they drug the children, slit their throats, cut them into pieces, and stew them in a barrel. Saint Nicholas discovers the crime and resurrects the children. After this, Pere Fouettard repents and becomes Saint Nick's partner. A slightly altered version of this story claims that Saint Nicholas forced Pere Fouettard to become his assistant as a punishment for his crimes. Another story states that during the siege of Metz in 1552, an effigy of King Charles Quint was burned and dragged through the city. Meanwhile, an association of tanners created a grotesque character armed with a whip and bound in chains that punished children. After Metz was liberated, the charred effigy of Charles Quint and the character created by the tanners somehow assimilated to what is now known as Pere Fouettard. Events surrounding the city's liberation and the burning of the effigy coincided with the passage of St. Nicholas, hence Pere Fouettard became his bad cop counterpart. In the 1930s, Pere Fouettard appeared in the United States under the translated name Father Flog of Spanky. Although almost identical to the original French personification, Father Flog had nothing to do with Christmas and also had a female accomplice named Mother Flog. The two doled out specific punishments for specific childhood crimes, for example, cutting out their tongue for lying. The Kallikantzaros is a malevolent goblin in southeastern Europe and Anatolian folklore. Stories about the Kallikantzaros or its equivalents can be found in Greece, Bulgaria, Serbia, Bosnia and Turkey. Kallikantzaros are believed to dwell underground but come to the surface during the 12 days of Christmas, from the winter solstice on the 25th of December to the 6th of January, during which time the sun ceases its seasonal movement. It is believed that Kallikantzaroi stay underground, sawing the world tree so that it will collapse along with the earth. However, according to folklore, when they are about to saw the final part, Christmas dawns and they are able to come to the surface. They forget the tree and come to bring trouble to mortals. Finally, on the Epiphany, the sun starts moving again and they must return underground to continue their soaring. But they see that during their absence the world tree has healed itself, so they must start working all over again. This is believed to occur annually. There is no standard description of the appearance of Kallikantzaroi. There are regional variations as to how their appearance is described. Some Greeks have imagined them with animal parts, such as hairy bodies, horse legs or boar tusks. Sometimes they are enormous, at other times diminutive. Others see them as humans of small size that smell horrible. They are predominantly male, often with protruding sexual characteristics. Many Greeks have imagined them as tall, black and hairy with burning red eyes, goats or donkeys' ears, monkeys' arms, tongues that hang out and heads that are huge. Nonetheless, the most common belief is that they are small black creatures, humanoid apart from their long black tails, and said to resemble little black devils. They are also mostly blind, speak with a lisp, and love to eat frogs, worms, and other small creatures. Kallikantzaroi are believed to be creatures of the night. According to folklore, there were many ways people could protect themselves during the time when the Kallikantzaroi were loose. One such method was to leave a colander on their doorstep to trick them. They apparently couldn't count above 2. 3 was supposed to be their holy number, and by pronouncing it, the Kallikantzaros would supposedly kill itself. The Kallikantzaros would sit at the doorstep all night, counting each hole of the colander until the sun rose and it was forced to hide. Another supposed method of protection from it was to leave the fire burning in the fireplace all night, so that they could not enter through it. In some areas, people would burn the Yule log for the duration of the 12 days. In other areas, people would throw foul-smelling shoes into the fire, as the stench was believed to repel the Kallikantzaroi, and thus force them to stay away. Additional ways to keep them away included marking one's back door with a black cross on Christmas Eve and burning incense. According to legend, any child born during the 12 days of Christmas was in danger of turning into a Kallikantzaro during each Christmas season, starting with adulthood. It was believed that the antidote to prevent this transformation was to blind the baby in tresses of garlic or straw, or to singe the child's toenails. According to another legend, anyone born on a Saturday could see and talk with the Kallikantzaroi. One particularity that set the Kallikantzaroi apart from other goblins or creatures in folklore was that they were said to appear on Earth for only 12 days each year. They were not considered purely malevolent creatures, but rather impish and stupid. In Greek, the term Kallikantzaros is also used to describe a number of other short, ugly, and usually mischievous beings in folklore. When not used for the aforementioned creatures, it seems to express the collective sense for leprechaun, gnome, and goblin. Mari Lywd, Grey Mare, or Holy Mary was the name most generally applied in Wales to the horse figure formerly carried from door to door by wassail singing groups during the Christmas season. This figure seems to have been once known all over southern Wales, but these days relatively little has been seen of it outside of Glamorgan, where it is not yet completely extinct. The attendant ritual began with the singing of traditional stanzas by the Mari Lywd group at the door, soliciting both permission to sing and entry into the house, and issuing a challenge to a versifying contest. Next followed the punko, the debate conducted to the same music in a combination of traditional and impromptu stanzas between a member of the group and an opponent within the house. This usually amounted to heavy leg pulling, in which the contestants mocked each other singing, drunkenness, etc. Victory in the debate would ensure admission into the house for the Mari Lywd group to partake in cakes and ale, and perhaps collect a money gift as well. In at least some cases, after the end of this debate, the group would sing additional stanzas introducing its individual members, and finally, after entertaining the occupants of the house, it would deliver a farewell song. Okay, so that's it for this video, guys. Sorry it was such a long one. Source links are down in the description below, along with my social media links. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you haven't already. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care, goodbye, and Merry Christmas.